Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days, or today's second video, which takes us to around the 8th of December, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. They run to around a couple of weeks. We're going to have a look at the Beijing Climate Centre for the next 40 days at the end of the video. That's going to get us to the start of January, actually, can you believe, into the beginning of 2020. So have a look at that at the end of the video. But before then, we're going to have a look at the detail of the next week to 10 days. So before I get on with that, just to say that the first video today was the JMA seasonal update. That's covering the full winter period, December, January and February. You can have a look at that when you're done with this video. And also tonight we're going to have the latest instalment for Christmas. Yes, the 12th Christmas update will be with you this evening. Have a bit of a laugh at that. We're going to start off, though, with this video with the 500 millibar high anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which you'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. So 500 millibars, 80 feet. It's an area in the atmosphere, high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by jet stream running above. Red extrapolates to above average heights, which is high pressure, blue to below average heights, which is low pressure. These are the mean flow charts for the 7 to 10 day time frame, which will get us to around the 8th of December, so to the end of the first week of December, if you like. And the ECM is looking very unsettled, actually, by day 10. So we are going to get an area of high pressure that settles things down, turns us drier and colder for the weekend and into next week. But by day 10, we're already back into unsettled conditions again, with the ECM as low pressure is dominating to our north, bringing in the jet stream off the Atlantic rather like that. It's not particularly mild either. High pressure is pulled back into the middle of the Atlantic just there, so it's not like we're pulling up very mild air from the central Atlantic. The air is actually coming in from the northern Atlantic, so quite cold and unsettled again, actually, with the ECM by day 10. Very similar conditions, I suppose, to what we've had during November. The GFS is very similar as well. There we go. We've got this area of below average height sitting to the north. That's a deep area of low pressure to our north. That brings in the jet stream and the westerlies. Ridge of high pressure is pulled out away from us into the middle of the Atlantic. So again, it's not a particularly mild westerly. It's actually quite a cold westerly. The air is originating from like the south of Greenland. There is quite a strong area of high pressure right over top of the pole as well, you'll notice. That's a blocking feature over top of the pole. Not really enough to drive anything particularly cold down into the west of Europe up to day 10, but obviously we would need to keep an eye on that to see whether it strengthens. And of course, if it was to start to move towards Greenland, if that ridge was to start to push in that direction, and this ridge just here was to start to do something like that, then we could start setting an area of high pressure, a blocking area of high pressure around Greenland. If we did that, then this trough of low pressure just here would, of course, go in that direction probably, and we would start to open the door to much colder northerly winds. As it is up to day 10, we just look cool and unsettled, but we do need to keep an eye on that area of high pressure that's setting up over the top of the North Pole itself. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. Looking at Widnes today up there in the northwest of England. So this is another suggested location for this section of the video. If you would like to have your local town or city featured within this part of the video, then we're always very happy to do that. Just email us at galsweathers@gmail.com or ask us via the comments at galsweathers, or of course there is also the social media accounts, Facebook and Twitter. You can tweet us and ask us to put you down on the list for your local town or city to be featured in this part of the video. A big thank you to everybody for getting involved in this over the past few weeks, of course. I've got quite a long list, so it does take us a little while to get round to everybody, but we will eventually get you all in. Right, so red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Widnes, and we're starting still relatively mild today. Temperatures are on the drop though, so over the weekend and into the early part of next week it's looking quite cold. That's our colder interlude that we've been talking about over the past week or so in the videos. Through the course of next week there's a gradual lift up in the temperature. It takes a little while, but by the middle to second half next week we're back into a milder phase as we bring in westerly winds, and then it's going to a more extended range, which of course takes us from the first week through to the second week of December. We see the temperatures beginning to drop back, certainly going back closer to average. There are some GFS ensemble members that are quite cold. These ones down here, they are sort of outliers, but quite a few of these are going colder for a time anyway, for a little while during the second week of December. Not sustained or severe cold, but some of those are going for a cold snap during the second week of December. The operational run indicated by that thick green line is included in that. A drier interval as well. As it goes colder, we see the weather drying out. So yes, we've been talking about this in the videos as well. Lately, we are going to get a much needed spell of dry, high pressure dominated weather until around the middle of next week for northern areas, and probably towards around the second half next week down in the south. Eventually, by the end of next week and into the following weekend, I think we're all back into unsettled conditions, and that carries on into the second week of December. Temperature anomalies from the 28th of November to the 6th of December are colder than average. It's going to be a below average week to come. That's primarily down to night frost, which could be quite hard actually over the weekend and into the early part of next week. Won't be too surprised to see temperatures going below -5 for some areas, and by the early part of next week you might start to get some freezing fog developing as well. Precipitation anomalies drier than average. Look at that, widely across the UK, the whole UK and Ireland. Forecasts have a drier than average week from the 28th of November to the 6th of December. Been a while since we've been able to say that. This is how the GFS operational run is looking for Sunday. So in comes a high pressure. We're in a cold northerly wind, so it will be pretty cold over weekend, but as this high pressure builds in, it will dry things out, and yes, I think we're going to see night frost becoming increasingly widespread. Could just be a few wintry showers running down the east coast and across northeast Scotland. Actually, those showers will fall to snow even to low levels over the weekend. Now, by Monday, we're all under a 1,035 millibar area of high pressure, so obviously that's going to bring loads of dry weather with it, really drying out through the early part of next week. It'll still be cold, though, under that ridge. And of course, as the ridge becomes centrally located over the country, so the risk of fog will increase because the air will sort of moisten up, if you like. You'll start off relatively dry with the air, but as time goes along, I think we'll infiltrate more moisture into this area of high pressure, more humidity, and so that will increase the risk of fog, especially for England and Wales. By Tuesday, we're already starting to drag in a little bit more of a west-southwesterly breeze to the northwest of Scotland, so it's turning a bit milder there, even as early as Tuesday, and that will keep any fog risks at bay as well, of course, as bringing in that westerly wind. But for most of us, we're under high pressure, skies are clear, so there could well be fog early next week. That ridge is still across England and Wales on Wednesday, so it does take a while to get rid of this ridge through England and Wales. But the Scotland and Northern Ireland westerly winds are increasing, so Wednesday probably brings some showery rain into the north and west, and also milder temperatures, still cold across England and Wales. But don't get through to Thursday, we're all then going into a milder push from off the Atlantic. So it takes a while, but eventually, even down in the south, temperatures will lift up into the second half of next week. But as they do so, as this high pressure sort of declines away to the south and west, so it begins to turn more unsettled. So by Friday next week, 6th of December, we're actually in quite a strong westerly wind, tight packed ice bars becoming windier, and certainly in northern areas turning wetter as well. And then we go up towards day 10 and we pull in a bit of a cold northwesterly wind there on Saturday the 7th. That's how we look on Sunday the 8th, day 10. So a bit in between, but it certainly is a little bit milder, and it's rather more unsettled. It's probably some sort of front that's strung out through the central part of the country, I would have thought, so there could be some rain, particularly for northern areas by day 10. Beyond day 10, we pull in quite a cold north-northeasterly wind as this area of low pressure then slips away to the east. A ridge builds out to the northwest. In comes this cold north to northeast wind. That brings a bit of a cold snap there. as we get to Tuesday the 10th, and probably bringing snow showers into eastern parts of the country. That doesn't last all that long, though. As we move towards the end of the GFS run, this is Thursday, 12th of December, general election day, we're beginning to introduce milder winds from off the Atlantic again, so temperatures lifting up, but also cloud outbreaks of rain. And then as at the very end of the GFS run, which is Saturday the 14th of December, we're into unsettled conditions, and probably hinting at going quite cold again. You will think as this low pressure here clears away in that direction, we will probably turn the wind into the north. So very up and down through the first half of December. Temperatures swinging from milder days to colder days, and a little bit of wintry potential in there as well, particularly for northern parts of the country. But the main thing, of course, that is turning drier through the weekend and into early next week. This is for GM. Again, we've got this high pressure building in from the north and west over the weekend into next week. That high pressure is bringing colder temperatures, night frost, and the risk of fog by the early part of next week as well. Although by Tuesday it's already starting to turn milder up across Scotland, and then through the middle and second half of next week we all go into these milder westerly winds. Turns increasingly unsettled, particularly to northern parts of the country. That's how we look at day 10, looking unsettled. Low pressure is driving in off the Atlantic, so particularly for the north and the west there's outbreaks of rain there. In the south though it is quite mild. ECM looks like this, same idea. The high pressure is building in from the north and west over the weekend and into next week, bringing drier but colder conditions too. By Tuesday, it's already starting to turn a little bit milder across Scotland, with the southwest winds elsewhere remaining dry and cold. Middle of next week, the high pressure keeps it mainly dry and cold for Wednesday across England and Wales, turning milder all the time though across Scotland and Northern Ireland. And then into the second half of next week, we all go into those milder westerly winds with spells of rain coming in from off the Atlantic. Gets rid of any fog, of course, as the winds freshen up, and it turns milder even in the south in the second half next week. Heading up towards day 10, that's how we're looking. So quite cool and unsettled really by day 10. Low pressure has broken through, taken over, and the wind is coming in from the northwest, so that is quite chilly at day 10 with the ECM Sunday the 8th of December. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which is the 8th of December. So we have 22 members of the ECM ensembles, including the operational run. Last run was just looking at, of course, that have below average heights, low pressure to our east and northeast, a mid-Atlantic ridge, and so that's cool and unsettled. Not desperately cold, but certainly rather cool, and it does look quite unsettled as well for most of us at day 10. The 16 that we have just here are even more unsettled. The trough of low pressure is deeper, and this includes the ECM control run as well. The trough of low pressure is deeper and centred to our east. A ridge is out to the west, a little bit stronger towards Greenland, so that's slightly colder and also very unsettled with those 16. And then we've got 13 just here with low pressure more sent over Scandinavia. Mid-Atlantic ridge, they're going to be quite cool and unsettled as well. So by the end of first week of December, we are looking quite cool and unsettled with all ECM ensemble members. In 2 weeks' time, this is the options that we've got. This is getting us to the 13th of December. So 26 members of the ECM ensembles looking really unsettled. This very, very deep trough of low pressure is parked itself over the top of the UK. There's no particular blocking feature to force cold air into that trough. We are on the cold side of a jet stream though, so very unsettled with those and quite cool. 19 just here have below average heights over to the east of the country, below average heights in the middle of the Atlantic. They're quite cool and unsettled as well. Jet stream is aligned northwest to southeast. And then the 6 that we have here are milder. They're still unsettled, but the low pressure is up towards Iceland and Greenland. Got a ridge to our south, so much flatter with these 6, therefore a milder option. However, it looks as though most of those ECM ensemble members are quite cold and unsettled, both at day 10 and in 2 weeks' time, telling us that we are likely to see more, despite the dry start to December through the first week. We are likely to see more spells of heavy rain, I think, if this is right, particularly through the second week of December, and temperatures probably a bit on the cold side, if anything, as well. Finally, the Beijing Climate Centre, so these are 500 millibar heights broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period will take us from the 1st to the 10th of December, and the coming 10 days has above average heights to our south and southwest, below average heights up to the northwest. Some more anticyclonic interlude. Eventually, the low pressure from the Atlantic is going to break this ridge down, as we've already established, but at least for the first 5 days of December, I think particularly England and Wales looking at a good deal of dry weather. However, by the time we get through to the next 10-day period, which is the 11th to the 20th of December, we're all back into unsettled conditions. Low pressure is dominating from off the Atlantic. High pressure's gone down to Spain. And so we're just looking rather flat, reasonably mild, I would have thought there, but also quite unsettled. Next 10-day period takes us through Christmas. This is the 21st to the 30th of December. We get an area of high pressure setting up over top of the country for Christmas. That will bring us a drier but colder spell, probably. So, yes, Christmas could be seasonable anyway, with frost and maybe freezing fog. Not snowy, but certainly under high pressure at the end of December. It's not going to be particularly mild. Usually you would expect night frost from that. And then we go through to the final 10-day period, which is the 31st of December, New Year's Eve, right the way through to the 9th of January 2020. So we're into the start of next year, and we're pulling the above average heights out into the middle of the Atlantic, below average heights coming back to the north. Unsettled and probably quite chilly as well. Jet streams lining up northwest to southeast there, I think. So rather cool and unsettled, back to kind of where we've had through much of the autumn, actually, by the time we get through to the beginning of January. There's no sign of anything desperately cold here, but it does look as though it's going to be rather up and down with the temperature. We're not worried about Beijing Climate Centre. That's all experimental. But coming back to the more reliable time frame, no sign of anything desperately cold. But certainly the first few days of December are going to be colder than we've had for a little while. And anticyclonic, there will be night frost. Then we looks like we're going to sort of an up and down period through the second week of December. So we're looking at low pressure coming back. The ridge gets broken down. We go back to unsettled conditions, therefore more spells of rain, and that would be particularly for northern and western areas this time, I think. Sometimes quite mild as those areas of low pressure come in, but as they exit away to our east, sometimes a little bit colder as we bring the winds in from the north. There are a couple of cold snaps that are being hinted at there through that second week of December, and as I say, quite unsettled too. So I would say if you are fed up with the rain, then it is going to dry out through the next few days. Make the most of it, because it could well be that as we get towards the end of the first week of December, into the second week of December, we're back into quite unsettled conditions once again. And of course, we'll worry about what happens in the second half of December, including Christmas, a little bit later on in the month. Talking of Christmas, we've got the 12th Christmas update coming up for you at 7 o'clock tonight. So come back for that then. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.